See, I don't care how it's done, as long as they wake up.
Well, that hopefully that clears it up for Walking Turtle.
Yeah. Okay.
We do actually have Lord Monckton coming on around about the 10th of September. It's a provisional date at the moment.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I was actually hoping to have a global warming kind of theme this evening, or anti-global warming theme.
Okay.
I was going to either get Godfrey Bloom on or Lord Monckton to speak after you, but they weren't available, and it was a bit short notice anyway. So I'm going to be reading out lots of articles later on about some of the new articles that are out exposing the fraud.
Fantastic. Yes, this satellite gate is a very big fraud, and they are very embarrassed by it and want to pretend it hasn't happened. But
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to hammer away at that. You see, what we have is a global warming religion,
Yeah.
and it has to be destroyed.
Well, the reason I mentioned, actually, I was going to come to that about satellite gate. Well, I've been trying to find the roots of this problem, and it's very clear from some of the real experts like Alan Watt and Alex Jones, and the massive amount of research they do, and that inspires me to do my own research. And
Yes.
For me, it all goes back to the Rothschilds. But we're looking today. Actually, let me just start again. About 8 months ago, I heard a speech from Rothschild expounding the wonderful idea that we could have a green conservation bank. Those exact 3 words. When I was listening to Chris Huhne, the climate secretary or something, he was speaking in Parliament, and just in the middle of all these measures that were coming out for the future, he just slipped in 3 little words: green conservation bank, and then moved on to the next subject. I was like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Now the whole idea, as we know,
themselves like we're all in this together, but they don't need us, they need them.
well, the way it works,
They're all in it
the
together.
way it's going to work, Mr. Corbyn, is in the future we're going to pay all our taxes to a privately owned offshore bank, a green conservation bank, and that will be the one world Gaia bank, you know. So the politicians are in on it. The media is in on it. We're not conspiracy theorists anymore. It's not even an insult. It's not even a debate. The New World Order is real, and they actually have a plan to eliminate 80 to 90% of us, so they can have a nice green Earth. But left in their hands, it's going to be a black Earth. So it's important. It's important that we get as much information out there to people as possible. And I'm so glad that you're able to come on to chat to us today to clear that up. You're a voice of common sense in the wilderness, Mr. Corbyn.
Thanks very much. Excellent. Well, we have to keep on the fight, and anyone who hears this, I hope they'll spread it around and get on our website, and also make use of our forecasts and force the authorities to make use of them to save people from suffering and save lives around the world.
Well, the satellite gate saga is new to me. I'm just taking a quote here from your site. The climate hype industry will do everything in its power to put a lid on this one. Imagine if it were found the satellite data had been reading minus 200 Fahrenheit in Michigan, etc. You mentioned about the boiling lake, and that had been used in input for world averages. There would be front page news and enraged questions in every elected and unelected public forum in the world, coupled with public sackings of the scientists involved and the most dire end of the world warnings possible, and redoubled calls for carbon super taxes. So some of the top climate scientists are speaking out on this satellite gate scandal. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yes. Well, what has become apparent is that the data as used by the American government, it has been inaccurate and has been inaccurate for some years. Now, the scandal is that they must have known this and carried on using it, and which means those people in charge of that data are frankly suspect. And we have to do all we can to defend those who've unearthed this and got it out in the open.
Someone's just asking what your website is there. Grace Young Monaghan, the question is, what's his website, Patrick? It's weatheraction.com. Weatheraction.com. Piers.
That's it.
Corbyn. I'll just type that in there for the people. There was one other thing I wanted to go over, just very quickly. How are we doing for time, Mr. Corbyn? You've been very generous with your time.
I don't know, we're okay. It's 5 to 10. I'm not sure when you were going to finish. But
Well, we actually finish at 11, so whenever you get a bit too tired,
carry on for another quarter of an hour or so.
Oh, that's great. Thanks ever so much.
Like.
That's great. I mean, your letter to the newspapers was very, very open, and you sent that to the Telegraph and the Guardian. Presumably, you got no reply, or they didn't print any of it.
No. Well, we sent lots of things. We sent stuff to the British government or various MPs.
Yeah.
And or MPs in charge of their climate committee and so forth. They all ignored us completely, except for Gordon Brown's office.
Oh, really?
Did reply. Yeah, no, they did. I mean, I think Gordon Brown got, he had officers who replied. Now, their reply wasn't useful, but at least it was a reply, and what it did, it directed us to the Met Office, who then sent us a lot of rubbish. At least with that, we can argue with them, whereas the chairs of the select committees which were promoting climate change and the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, they didn't even acknowledge anything we sent them, ever. And I think that is scandalous, because they call themselves representative bodies.
Well, representative of who exactly? You know.
well, indeed.
I'm just going over a few articles here, looking at a few articles that I wanted to bring up with you. I'm having a few problems accessing the questions at the moment, so I'm sorry if I'm missing them. If perhaps Vince could post them into my Skype chat box. I'm having trouble getting on to tnsradio.ning.com to get the questions, so sorry about that. Scottish Sovereign just mentioned that.
Well, I think the question must be, what are people going to do about all this? And what I think they have to do is, whenever any politician turns up anywhere talking green, just ask them for evidence. And if you go past a shop who says, buy from us, save the planet, then boycott that shop. Just make it clear that CO2 is having no effect. I mean, we can, you can recycle what you want, but don't fall for these cons, and make it publicly known that you're not falling for them.
Absolutely, it's a green revolution, masterminded by the Rockefellers and the Club of Rome. So it's a bunch of criminals who believe that the public are well dumbed down now with lots of television information. They hand our culture and our society to us. If there's any public discontent, we'll increase the amount of rock concerts and festivals going on. And our culture is handed to us on a plate. Even the sexual revolution of the 60s was an invention to purely break up the family, so people are used to sleeping around and they bond with each other. It sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? But it does keep the population down. And this is the whole agenda.
Well, they do have a hidden agenda of reducing world population, because I've been to meetings of them. There was a big meeting in the Royal Society, and I stood up and argued with them pretty forthrightly, me and two other scientists. And then they had a discussion at the end, and I think they forgot we were there.
Right.
And they started.
Oh, it's always worth hanging around for the end. Yeah, I know.
They started going on about population control, and said there was twice as many people in the world as there should be. Now,
for them,
They didn't then say, well, half the people in the room have got to die. They were obviously excluding themselves. But what they had in mind, I do not know, but frankly, it was very scary.
You see, I don't care how it's done, as long as they wake up.